Hey guys, I'm Chalena, that's Maggie, and this is Mysteries at the Coffee Shop. So as you can see, Courtney is not here this episode. That is okay. Something came up, but Maggie in here.
Yeah, I'm in here.
You're in here. Maggie is here. But Maggie and I are here to go over one of the biggest cases known to America. It is, what is it, Maggie?
The JonBenet Ramsey case.
Yes, a case that swept the nation in the year 1996. Before we begin, I just want to say that viewer discretion is advised with this episode. It does go over some really ugly topics, such as SA, grape, so just keep in mind that this is not a pretty case, and if it disturbs you, stuff like that disturbs you, I would back out of it right now. Honestly, it does not get pretty, and we go down to the nitty-gritty. So with that being said, let's get into it. JonBenet Ramsey was born August 6, 1990, and was murdered inside her Boulder, Colorado home at the age of 6 years old. She was a well-known child pageant queen who came from a wealthy family, and she was beloved by all who met her. I don't think she met a stranger. So who would have done this to this 6-year-old girl? Let's take a detailed look into the crime scene and where everyone was at the time.
First off, I want to say people who put their children in pageants really disturb me.
I also agree with that. I think dressing up a child and then putting them in front of an audience where you don't know who's sitting in that audience, like, I don't know. I just don't trust it. I don't like
either.
it.
And people who watch
It's a little weird. Don't get me wrong. I mean, granted, like, these children are talented. These children are, like, their parents believe they are, like, really good looking children, and, like, they're beautiful children. Like, and that's fine. It's just that some people take advantage of that, and they would, just be creepy about it.
Yeah, it just seems creepy to me. I can't imagine. I wouldn't do that to my child.
No. And because she was in the pageant scene, like, it kind of made her a target. So let's just go over what happened to her.
Yeah.
So December 25th, 1996, the Ramseys woke up and they had a normal Christmas. Like, I mean, not a normal, like, middle class, like, everyday family Christmas. Their Christmases were always extravagant. Honestly, there was decorations, Christmas trees in every room. Their Boulder home in Colorado was 7,240 square feet. It is on sale right now on Zillow for like $7 billion.
Million? Did you say billion?
I said million.
Oh, it sounded like you said billion. I'm sorry.
Million. Yes, it's on sale on Zillow for $7 million right now. It is a massive fucking house. Like, honestly, I can't even describe how big it is. I mean, there are bigger houses, but like that's pretty big. And then for her to decorate every single room, like, Christmas was an important holiday to them. I mean, she had 2 young kids, so, they were just enjoying each other's company, opening their presents. Around 4:30 p.m., the Ramseys go to a Christmas dinner party at one of their really close friends. They were called the Whites. And the party lasts until about 9:30 p.m., and when the Ramseys arrive back home, their son Burke heads straight to bed. He's tired. He's like, I'm going to go to bed. JonBenet was carried into the house because she was already asleep, and they placed her in the bed, tucked her in, said goodnight. The next day, on December 26, 1996, Patsy wakes up at around like 5 a.m. just to make herself a cup of coffee. She walks down the back set of stairs that leads to the kitchen, and on the stairs, she noticed that there's like papers scattered, right? There's like 3 sets of papers, and she picks them up, and it's a ransom note. She realizes it's a ransom note, and it's addressed to her husband, John. So I'll read the ransom note right here. It's oddly specific and a little weird to me that it's so long, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, so it says, Mr. Ramsey, listen carefully. We are a group of individuals that represent a small foreign faction. We do respect your business, but not the country that it serves. At this time, we have your daughter in our possession. She is safe and unharmed, and if you want her to see 1997, you must follow our instructions to the letter. You will withdraw $118,000 from your account. $100,000 will be in $100 bills, and the remaining $18,000 will be in $20 bills. Make sure that you bring an adequate sized attaché to the bank. When you get home, you will put the money in a brown paper bag. I will call you between 8 and 10 a.m. tomorrow to instruct you on delivery. The delivery will be exhausting, so I advise you to be rested. If we monitor you getting the money early, we might call you early to arrange an earlier delivery of the money and hence an earlier pickup of your daughter. Any deviation of my instructions will result in the immediate execution of your daughter. You will also be denied her remains for proper burial. The two gentlemen watching over your daughter do not particularly like you, so I advise you do not provoke them. Speaking to anyone about your situation, such as the police, FBI, etc., will result in your daughter being beheaded. If we catch you talking to a stray dog, she dies. If you alert bank authorities, she dies. If the money is in any way marked or tampered with, she dies. You will be scanned for electronic devices, and if any are found, she dies. You can try to deceive us, but be warned that we are familiar with law enforcement countermeasures and tactics. You stand a 99% chance of killing your daughter if you try to outsmart us. Follow our instructions, and you will stand a 100% chance of getting her back. You and your family are under constant scrutiny as well as the authorities. Don't try to grow a brain, John. You are not the only fat cat around, so don't think that killing will be difficult. Don't underestimate us, John. Use that good southern common sense of yours. It's up to you now, John. Victory. SBTC.
Yeah, it's extremely long. I don't know the statistics or the data of how long ransom notes can get, but I don't think it's this.
It is oddly specific. It really is. And it sounds like whoever wrote it really had a vendetta around the Ramseys, but I just feel like it's not straight to the point, right?
It's definitely not. And the amount of money is also odd. If I remember correctly, that's the amount he got as a bonus that year.
Yes, that is. That is the amount that he got in a bonus that year. After Patsy reads this, she screams for John to check on the children. Burke is still in bed, and JonBenet is missing. At 5:52, Patsy frantically calls 911, is freaking out, and is reporting her daughter missing and that there's a ransom note. She says that her daughter has been kidnapped. So she calls the police. They get there in 3 minutes, but promptly after calling the police, Patsy also calls her friends and family to let them know what happened, and they all go over to support them. At 5:55 a.m., the police arrive at the Ramsey estate, and they search the premises for JonBenet and don't find her.
That's just odd. So what was Patsy doing in those 52 minutes?
I don't know. I know she woke up around 5 a.m. I don't know how long she took to get ready. Then maybe she was watching TV. The news comes on that early, right? I don't know.
Yeah, I think 24-hour news was a thing.
Yeah. So she could have been up watching the news. I don't know. It doesn't say, when she found the note exactly. I just know that she woke up at around 5, right? I think she got dressed and everything and went downstairs to make herself coffee, which, personally, I think that if you wake up at 5 a.m. and get ready and you don't have a job, that you're a fucking psychopath. But
no, for real.
Right now, the day after Christmas, I'm just gonna wake up at 5 a.m.
No, I'm gonna sleep in.
Yeah, no, homie, no, I'm gonna sleep in. Anyways, they search the home. They don't find JonBenet. From 9 a.m. to 10 a.m., the police, family, and friends are anxiously waiting for the phone call that was mentioned in the ransom note, but the phone call never comes. The detectives, they head back to the police department. They take all the officers, but leave Officer Linda Arndt because they need to go talk to the FBI to see what else they need to do, and come up with a game plan, because obviously maybe the kidnappers are onto them. Maybe they saw that they went to the house or whatever, so they leave to get a game plan on. And of course, as more time passes on, John and the family, they get really anxious. So Detective Arndt tells them, hey, go search for the house and look for anything out of the ordinary.
That seems not like a good idea.
That seems not professional.
Yeah, not professional. Just go search yourself. You might find something.
The whole house is a crime scene at this point, right? And when I was telling this case at work. They were like, oh, they just went over to support them because they thought she was kidnapped. And I was like, yes, they thought she was kidnapped. However, because somebody came into the home and took her, the whole house is a crime scene. Like, people should not be going in and out. It should have
Yeah, it
actually
should have
been
been,
blocked off.
yeah, should have been contained. Nobody should be getting inside.
Or outside the premise.
Yeah, the Ramseys should have been taken to the police station.
House should have been searched thoroughly by police, but that
Yes.
didn't happen.
No, and especially since it's like 6 a.m. when they got there, and at this point, it's like probably around 11 to noonish.
Yeah, that it's pretty crazy. So when they go to search for the house, John Ramsey and his friend Fleet White, they begin searching the various rooms of the basement. When I looked at this house on Zillow, I think the people who had the house recently redid the basement.
So I mean, I would too.
I mean, yeah, fair. Like, couldn't get like a good look-see of what this basement would look like, or like how it was laid out. Granted, I wouldn't get a good idea of that anyways, just looking at pictures from Zillow, but I'm kind of a visual person. Anyways, They search the various rooms of the basement, right? And they get to this one called the wine cellar. You know, a police officer, like, did search the premise of the basement, but it was said that he just didn't open the door to this basement because it didn't look like it had been tampered with. So he didn't suspect it at all. So when John and Fleet open the door to the wine cellar, they discover the body of JonBenet. And at that point, she was dead. She had duct tape on her mouth, an injury to her head. She had cords tied around her wrist, a cord around her neck. And of course, John is taken aback. Like, his little girl is dead. He carries her body up to where everyone is at and places a sheet on her. Patsy falls to the ground and screams and holds her baby, rocking her back and forth, screaming like a banshee. And then the case is declared a murder and not a kidnapping.
While I do understand the emotions that were probably going through the Ramseys, that is tampering with possible evidence.
Correct. Her body, as much as you want to cover up her body, give her the dignity, let her mom hold her, that body could not have been moved. Because, well, now that you've moved the body, like, everything that touches that body, like, tampers with the evidence, right? So, like, putting that sheet over her tampers with the evidence. Putting, like, everything that was touched on her tampered with the evidence. The way that her body was laid out, the way that all of this happened, like, they couldn't figure that out. Which you do get information from the way that a body is laid out and, you know, disposed of.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of like one of the first, well, it is the first thing detectives look at when they discover murder, to see like the placement. Because whether people who kill know this or not, the way they do it shows insights to their personality, and they can leave certain like aspects that they didn't necessarily mean to, certain evidence.
Correct. So let's just go over the evidence, just because this whole case is a clusterfuck, right?
Yeah.
So as the police search the basement, they find what is known as a garrote, which, if you don't know what that is, it's a device used to tighten the noose around somebody's neck. So essentially, it's like a stick that has the string tied to it, and you wrap it around someone's neck, and you just kind of twist it to tighten that force around the neck where the cord is at. The stick that was used to make this device was actually the handle of a paintbrush from Patsy's painting kit that was stored in that basement.
That's lovely.
Right. I don't know where the cord came from, but that's where the handle came from. They looked throughout the basement and the house, and there was no signs of a struggle in JonBenet's room. There was no signs of a struggle anywhere else, and there was no signs of a break-in, or so they thought. So even though there was no signs of a break-in, there was a broken window in the basement that the couple had accidentally broke prior. I'm not sure how it was broken, but it was broken, and they just never got around to replacing it.
I mean, that does happen.
It does happen. I mean, you just don't think about it. And like,
it is weird though, because they definitely could have afforded to get it fixed.
I thought about that. I think it just kind of slipped their minds.
Yeah.
Like, you know, you have a house that big, and then like that window's just kind of out of sight, out of mind, and everything that's in that basement is just storage. So like, I guess they weren't worried about it.
Yeah. I do understand that.
Yeah. They just never got around to fixing it. So, near where the body was found, though, they did find a boot imprint from the brand High Tech, which, like, that's pretty significant evidence, right? And in the video footage of the crime scene, there is a blue suitcase that was seen underneath the broken window, and the staff and the housekeeper of the Ramsey home confirmed that that suitcase was never stored there. So, that suitcase was gotten from within the home, but it didn't live there, right? But in that same footage, there is a bowl of pineapple seen in the kitchen on the kitchen table with a spoon in it. And when they tested it, it was later shown to have Burke's fingerprints all over it. And this is important when we get to the autopsy. Another piece of evidence is that the ransom letter was proven to be written on a notepad found within the Ramsey home, as well as the ink. Like, so they tested the ink on that ransom note, and it came from a pen within the house as well.
Yeah, a lot of sketchy things going on inside that house.
Yeah, I mean, like, I thought about it and I was like, so, like, how long were these people inside their house without them knowing?
Yeah, if there was intruders.
Like, they came in, right? Homie sat down, took the time to write this out. They fed little homie pineapple, right?
Yeah, they just ate it with her?
I don't know. Yes, so that bowl of pineapple is important because we're going into the autopsy now. And in the autopsy, it showed that JonBenet had undigested pineapple in her stomach. So they're assuming that whoever fed her the pineapple was the person that killed her. Not only did they find that, but they found that she had a skull fracture, so an injury to her head. They said that her cause of death was asphyxiation, so what killed her was somebody choking her out with that cord wrapped around her neck. Her underwear was stained with urine and a red color, which was later proven to be blood. There was a red ink heart drawn on her left hand, and there was no evidence of conventional rape. However, sexual assault could not be ruled out. And it seemed that her genital area was wiped down. And then there was also abrasions found on her genital area on the outside of her body, and then markings on her neck and her side that kind of resembled the markings of a stun gun.
That's just sad. I mean, this was a 6-year-old.
I know. I was like, this is a 6-year-old girl. Like, what? Why the fuck are you doing? Like, it just sounds... The way that she died sounds very violent for a 6-year-old girl. Right?
Yeah, I mean,
for anybody, but, like, it's a 6-year-old girl.
Who has this much beef with a 6-year-old?
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, like, it's ridiculous.
I'm sure the Ramsey family themselves have enough beef with enough people, but, like, they took it out on this 6-year-old girl. But I'm assuming that is what would hurt them most, is you hurt their prized possession, which is JonBenet.
Yeah, I just leave the kids out of it.
Right. So the circumstances around her death are just really strange, right? And you're getting that from, like, what I'm telling you. Like, what the fuck is going on here? What is happening?
I mean, this case has always been kind of weird to me because it doesn't add up. And it definitely should be solved.
Right. So, let's get into the suspects, right? So the first suspects that, they really tried to hammer down into, they really looked into and spent most of their efforts, like, trying to get evidence against them was John and Patsy Ramsey. Because like we said, like, none of this makes sense. None of it makes sense, right? You have a 7,000 square foot house, no security. Somebody comes into your house, murders your daughter, has time to go in your fridge, get pineapple out, has time to sit down and write a ransom note, and you don't fucking know?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if these people were heavy sleepers or what, but somebody knows something.
In this theory, it's believed that Patsy killed JonBenet because JonBenet, like, she had this problem of wetting the bed, which is not abnormal for a 6-year-old girl. Some people say it's abnormal. They say, like, by this time that your child should be able to sleep throughout the night without wetting themselves. Well, homie, if you have a dream about using the toilet, it's going to happen, okay? It happens every time.
It happens. And also, this is depressing, but when children urinate the bed, it can be a sign of that they've been sexually assaulted or that they're overly stressed. There's a lot of factors that could play into it. And her being a child, like, pageant star, I honestly wouldn't doubt either of those possibilities.
I wouldn't doubt that either. She did have a lot on her shoulders, you know, being she was like the prized possession. And if she wasn't perfect, then what
Yeah.
was she, right? So her wetting the bed, like they thought that that was the motive partly. They thought that they were thinking that she had wet the bed, and Patsy in a fit of rage hits her over the head, and then they're like, oh shit, well, now we have to cover it up. So they come up with this whole kidnapping scheme to save Patsy and the family from the murder of their daughter. A handwriting analysis was hired. She was a professional. She works in forensics. And the similarities between Patsy's handwriting and the ransom note were pretty striking. Like, it was enough for people to say, like, hey, maybe she wrote this ransom note. At first, I know the Ramseys declined interviews. They declined talking to the police department. They got lawyers. But when they did come in for an interview, they interviewed them separately. And John and Patsy said the same thing. They said that maybe a woman wrote the ransom note, which was really strange. And that made them think that they talked about what they were going to say and come up with an alibi, a story to make this all make sense. And the fact that the stick used for the garrote was from one of the paintbrushes in Patsy's kit, she would technically be the only one to know where it was at and what to, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. It's just, it's strange.
Right, right. And like you said earlier, that 118,000 was the amount that he got in a bonus that year. Well, who else would know that other than the Ramseys and Patsy?
We'll get into that later.
I do want to say though, like, I just feel like there's some holes in this. So if Patsy was the one that did it, when did she have time to feed her pineapple, right? And then
Yeah.
if she hit her over the head, why would they strangle their daughter like that? You know what I'm saying? Why would they violently strangle their daughter?
That I have a small theory about. If they did hit her over the head and it was enough to cause a lot of damage, like you said, the autopsy showed that she had a skull fracture, that would ruin their reputation. Maybe they wanted it to look like a murder to gain sympathy instead of ruining what they had. Like kind of finishing the job, as sick as that sounds.
It's pretty sick. So another thing that I want to bring to mind is like, what about the possible sexual assault? Like, do you think that, you know, John was possibly molesting their daughter?
I don't know. That's an iffy subject, and I haven't
It
really.
is pretty iffy. I mean, like, I thought about it, but like there's still, it doesn't make sense. And like, if it did happen, did Patsy know? So we'll never actually know. I mean, and I talked to my aunt about this case, and she said that, you know, when the case came on the news, she said it seemed like John and Patsy were pretty genuine on screen. And like when I went back and watched it, to me, it just seemed a little bit fishy, right? Because
Yeah.
they had put up a reward for $100,000 to somebody who could give them information that led to an arrest. She was like, somebody's out there, we got to find this murderer, blah, 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 blah. And it almost seemed like they're trying to take the spotlight off of them, that they weren't the ones that did it. All of it just seems fishy. I don't know. It was really strange to me.
Yeah, I guess it just depends on what perspective you're looking at it through, or like what lens you're looking at it through. If you think that they're guilty, it'll obviously sway what you perceive when they're giving the interviews. But I didn't watch that stuff live. I don't know how they genuinely reacted. It's weird. It's definitely weird.
No, it definitely is. So I know that you researched the Burke Ramsey theory. So like let's hear that. Let's see what's going on there.
So Burke Ramsey, as everyone knows, was JonBenet's brother. Um, he was also theorized to have committed the murder. And just to be clear and to reiterate, these are all theories, not like dogging anybody. Don't want to get sued.
Please don't sue the poor college children. We obviously don't have money.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like I should mention that Burke Ramsey, all of the Ramseys were actually formally exonerated in 2008 using DNA evidence. Burke was reported to have some mental health issues and acted aggressive towards JonBenet. I don't know if because she was like the golden child if he had some sibling jealousy, sibling rivalry going on there. It was reported by the housekeeper that he had had a history of defecating in her bed and smearing it on her walls, which is very strange.
That's some Amber turd shit right there. Like that's gross.
No, it's very weird. I don't know. I mean, I have siblings, and me personally, I never shit in their beds. It's just not how we roll.
It's like, I don't think as an 8-year-old it ever came across for me to shit in my sit, like, cause that, what the fuck?
No, when my siblings and I used to fight, we would just like bite and yell and try to throw punches. I mean, we were kids. That's kind of what kids do.
I feel like shitting on somebody's bed is like a whole other level of hate. Like that's really gross.
Yeah, it's disgusting. And that was reported by the housekeeper. There was also reportedly an incident where Burke got so frustrated with JonBenet that he struck her in the head with a golf club. As mentioned before, she had had a skull fracture in her autopsy. If this incident was true, Burke had a tendency to go for the head. In a documentary from CBS, they theorized that Burke got frustrated with JonBenet, possibly due to her stealing a piece of pineapple from him. His fingerprints were all over that bowl of pineapple, and there was partially digested pineapple present in her stomach during the autopsy, and this could have triggered Burke, causing him to strike his sister in the head. It is believed that he wouldn't have intended to kill her, just to cause her harm because he's frustrated, and that his parents, in fear of losing another child and dealing with the retaliation, covered up the murder. This goes back to Patsy's handwriting kind of matching with the ransom note. She could have covered up for her son. I don't know. This one's a weird one too.
Yeah. It would make sense because if they took her to the hospital or whatever, right? She would essentially lose both her children.
Yeah.
And it would smear their name. That they would just lose their reputation. They would lose a lot of things over that.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a pleasant experience.
You said they were all exonerated in 2008 over DNA evidence. Well, we do have a couple more suspects to go over. There's actually a lot of suspects in this, which is the frustrating part is like they could never pin it down to just one person.
Yeah,
one or two people.
There's just so many different theories, and each of them have pieces that kind of fit, but they're not perfect. Like, you can't nail it on the head.
So the next suspect on the list is Bill McReynolds. He was a really close family friend, actually. He was within their friend group, right? Bill McReynolds was a retired journalism professor, and he was an older man with this big, bushy white beard. You know, heavier set a little bit, and he had like these light-colored eyes. He just looked so much like Santa Claus, so much so that he would actually dress up as Santa Claus at all of Patsy's famous Christmas parties and even their friends. I think I read something where he was actually at the White's Christmas dinner party dressed as Santa, and his wife Janet was there as well. He was super close with JonBenet. Like, people said that he had a really weird particular interest with her, and he chose her to be his quote-unquote special friend.
What the hell does that mean?
I don't know. I don't like it. I don't like
that either. You don't look at a child and be like, you're my special friend. No.
That's fucking creepy.
No, that's not cool. I don't like that.
The creepiest part is that JonBenet did gift him a jar of glitter, and he took that with him into heart surgery and told his wife that if he were to die, he'd want her to mix the glitter in with his ashes.
No. Oh, God, no. No.
Yeah, I know. And then when the police were searching JonBenet's room, right, they found a note written by Bill that he gave to JonBenet, I guess in secret, because nobody knew about this little note. It said, "You'll receive a special gift after Christmas." Like, what the fuck does that mean?
I don't like that. I don't like that one bit.
I know, and then I was watching interviews of them and stuff, and they said, like, I guess at the time it wasn't a red flag, but it was a red flag to me, and it might be because, like, I'm a little bit overprotective.
It would definitely be a red flag to me. If somebody, like, if I had children and somebody wrote them, like, referred to them as their special friend, no. You're not being around my child.
No. And then, like, in interviews and stuff, they would say really weird things like, oh, children aren't celebrated enough and they love children. And I was like, what the? Why are you
emphasizing children?
Yes.
That's I don't suspicious. Like that. That's weird.
Right. You want to hear the weirdest part? Okay, so I was researching him a little bit more than what was in that documentary and like all these articles and stuff. So I literally just searched him in general. Him and his wife Janet wrote a play about a young girl that was killed and molested in their basement.
Oh my God.
That's a huge red flag. But the creepiest, weirdest thing about it is that this could have been based off of their own experience with their daughter, who was actually kidnapped with her best friend in 1974. And their daughter suffered trauma from watching her best friend be molested, and no one was ever prosecuted for that crime.
That's ridiculous.
How is that? Like, how is there so many fucking coincidences? And why would you write that?
That's sick.
You know what I mean?
That's sick.
Why would you write a play about that?
Yeah, you don't write that about, your own daughter.
Like, I don't know if it was about their own daughter, but
if it's a reference to it, that's still sick.
That's pretty sick.
It's sick to do JonBenet too.
Yeah.
But I don't like that.
I don't like that at all, but like I feel like it would make sense if it was him, right? Because if it's December 25th, Santa Claus comes into the 6-year-old girl's house.
She's gonna be like, hell yeah, it's Santa. I'll eat pineapple with you.
Yeah, she's not gonna make a peep. They're not gonna know. If he is a close friend and has been to the house, does he know where everything is at? I don't know. He
could.
I know that JonBenet did take him on like a house tour at one point, which is really weird. I would not allow my 6-year-old to take a grown-ass man on a house tour. Like, that's fucking weird. But also, if I'm suspicious of you and I don't know you that well, you would not be in my home seeing my children. But she did do that.
When I was a kid, I used to love giving people house tours, but my mom would always follow me. Got in trouble for that one time because I announced to the guests that my parents didn't sleep in the same room because my mom's room was too girly. That was not why.
That is the thing about children is I wonder if JonBenet did show him around the house, right? And like kind of like told him about the broken window and then the paintbrush. You know what I mean? Because little kids say stuff like that.
I mean, they're just random. That's what they do.
Yeah, she was completely innocent. She was a 6-year-old girl.
Yeah.
And, like, this man was, like, really creepy. So, like, was he so obsessed with her to the fact that, like, he would kill her? Like, do you think that he would hurt her? Do you think that it was, like, a sexual, like, fantasy of his? Like, that's fucking weird.
It is weird. I don't appreciate that. Not one bit.
Me neither, but I also think that, like, when they tested everything, none of his DNA really showed up, but he was really, really weird about it. He's pretty high on my list of suspects. Like, he just has red flags for me. And definitely. If not her, then somebody else. He has since passed away, so if he did do something, he took his secrets to the grave. So we'll never actually know.
Unless we get solid DNA evidence, but
I don't think that's gonna happen.
Yeah, that's tough. It's been years and contaminated. It's not handled well at all.
Right. So who's our next suspect on the list?
Our next suspect is Chris Wolf, was a Boulder journalist who became a suspect when his girlfriend called the police stating that he had stormed out of the house on Christmas night and that when he returned, his clothes were all muddy. She also stated that when JonBenet's story broke the news, he became, like, really angry and raged. This one's kind of spotty. There weren't many connections, but some of them were that the initials signed at the bottom of the ransom note, SBTC. Wolf was known to have a sweatshirt with those initials that he wore quite frequently. They stood for Santa Barbara Tennis Club. I feel like that's a bit of a stretch, but it was noted in a couple articles. He had also written an article about John Ramsey's company and could have had information about his bonus, which goes back to the ransom note being really specific. And he was also a friend of Bill McReynolds, which he denied, but it was proven that they were friends. Boulder police had investigated him and stated there was no solid evidence linking him to the crime, but he is still a notable suspect.
You think him and Bill would have gotten together and like...
That is a theory that there was more than one person.
I feel like the ransom note implied that it was more than one person.
Yeah. So, I mean, it definitely could be a possibility. The initials thing, while it's a bit of a stretch, could be just like, oh, that's an easy one. They'll never guess what this stands for, since it's something so mundane as Santa Barbara Tennis Club.
I feel like that's a little bit of a stretch, but like, again, these people had beef with so many other people, and then they knew a lot of people, and a lot of people had access to their child. It's just a clusterfuck. But
yeah,
another person that they had beef with was a man named Michael Helgotz. So he is our next suspect. And he was an electrician that worked in a nearby auto salvage yard. He was known as a hellraiser and allegedly had a property dispute involving the Ramseys.
Huh.
And this could possibly be the motive, but I don't know. I don't know if it's motive enough to kill a 6-year-old girl, but I thought about it and I looked into him, and he is a fucking psychopath. He has always been a psychopath. So he's good friends with the guy who owns the salvage yard. They would work on things together. He was the one that kind of reported him to the police and was like, hey, like, he's a little weird. I would consider him a suspect, right? So the man was known to like torture animals, and his favorite thing to do was take kittens and take them and like smash them on the ground so hard that
Nope.
Yeah, and he was weird about it. Of course, like, the man like kept him at the salvage yard because they could fix anything together.
You know how I feel about cats.
I know. He's an awful man. An awful man.
Awful person.
Awful person. He would just go on and say things, and he was always like, I wonder what it's like to crack a human skull. And this raised red flags. Another thing that raised a red flag was that he told his buddy, the guy who owns the salvage yard, he told him that he and his business partner would be getting a $50,000 to $60,000 bonus, like each of them near Christmas, which is really weird. It's like, where are you getting this bonus from? What are you doing? I don't know if he thought that he was going to win the property dispute with the Ramseys, or if they just decided to kidnap their kid, right?
It's definitely weird.
The crazy thing is they didn't really suspect him until like he killed himself, supposedly died by suicide, right? They go in to look at the body. He has a pair of high-tech boots right by the door.
And that is suspicious, but that also is a popular brand, I'm assuming.
Yeah, I'm assuming so. Like, but of course there's more than one high-tech boot brand.
Yeah.
Like, there's more than one of those shoes out there, right? Well, the weird thing about his death was that he was right-handed and the gun was found in his left hand, and the angle at which the bullet went through his head wasn't the correct angle for him to be shooting with his left hand.
That's really suspicious.
And then they did find some really weird things around him when they found a stun gun, and they're like, could this have been the stun gun that, he stunned JonBenet Ramsey with? Who knows? And then they supposedly did take his shoes and run tests on it, but I don't know. I don't think it ever came back, if it came back positive or not. They couldn't answer that to the T. They just knew that it, quote unquote, didn't match. And I was like, did it match the shoe size? Did it, like, nobody could give me answers on that.
Yeah, I feel like it'd definitely be inconclusive because shoes are shoes. Unless they're like a really rare, super expensive, particularly special brand, there's going to be hundreds of other people who have those shoes.
Exactly. And then also, like, I don't think JonBenet knew this man, right? There's no way that he could just go in the house and, like, she wouldn't freak out as a 6-year-old.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if some strange man came in my house now, I'd be like, what?
She's like, oh.
And I'd be freaking out.
Yeah. And then, like, offer me pineapple, I'd be like, no, sir. No, sir. No.
Santa
pineapple.
Claus? Yeah. Random man?
No. So his cause of death is unclear, but the theory is that his quote-unquote business partner that he was supposed to make that money with actually came in and killed him and ran off, because remember, the Ramseys put up a $100,000 reward to the arrest of somebody or some information. So maybe he was going to rat him out for that. I'm not quite sure, but...
Maybe.
But there is another suspect, and who is that suspect, Maggie?
Linda Hoffman Pugh. none other than the Ramseys' housekeeper. So, Linda had told the investigators about Brooke Ramsey's history of mental illness. She had stated that he was aggressive towards JonBenet, and that this goes back to the pooping in the bed. He had left a grapefruit-sized piece of shit in her bed and smeared it all over her walls.
She did not say it was grapefruit size. She did
She
not.
did.
She
According to this article, she did. It's on the internet, so take it with a grain of salt. I mean, that's a pretty weird way to describe it.
It was a big shit on JonBenet's bed. Okay, keep going.
Yeah.
Proceed.
Like that episode of South Park where Randy Marsh has like the record-breaking shit. So anyway, apparently Linda had asked Patsy to borrow about $2,000 shortly before Christmas. She was familiar with the house. She knew JonBenet. It would have been possible to go in there without any like hoopla or anything because JonBenet was familiar with her. Police had found the same brand of duct tape used to cover JonBenet's mouth in Pugh's home. Again, it's duct tape. So it could be a coincidence since it's a mass-produced item, but that is what it is. She also pointed fingers at Mrs. Ramsey in a book that she had written. So she was like pretty quick to be like, oh, Patsy has these issues and she's kind of aggressive and gets really moody. She had stated to a jury that Patsy had become very moody before Christmas. That she said, and I quote, I think she had multiple personalities. She'd be in a good mood and then she'd be cranky. She got into arguments with JonBenet about wearing a dress or a friend coming over. I've never seen Patsy so upset. Basically, the evidence for Linda is the duct tape. She had asked for money. She would have had familiarity with the house, and she was, I guess, quick to point fingers.
Well, of course, like she basically lived there, and so she saw every outburst and stuff. But she would be a pretty good person to suspect. But like, I don't know.
I really don't. Personally, I don't think it'd be her. I mean, if I knew something suspicious about a family and one of those people got murdered, I'd be like, hell yeah, I'll tell you right now.
Right. But like, of course, like the Ramseys technically do have, I don't know, some sort of power over her, but I don't know. Again, like all of these people are so fucking suspicious. And then like my next one. So the next person on the suspect list is a man named Gary Oliva. And he was like a 32-year-old known sex offender in Boulder, right?
Lovely. That's great.
Yeah. What is so weird about him is that he's literally a convicted pedophile in the area, right? And so he was wandering the area and they got him for trespassing, right? They look in his backpack. They're like, hey, like, what are you doing here? He's like, nothing. And they're like, we're going to look in your backpack. And he was like, don't look in there. And
is it that guy?
It's that guy.
No.
And they look in there and they find a cutout of JonBenet Ramsey in his backpack. And they're like, yo, what the fuck? And so they keep looking.
That's so strange.
It is strange. And then they keep looking and they find a stun gun. He was like, no, my friend gave me that for protection. And they're like, we don't fucking buy it, right? So his buddy, his old high school friend named Michael Vale stepped forward and was like, hey, not long after the JonBenet murder case, whatever, he called him on the phone and was telling him, like, I heard a little girl. And Michael Vale stepped forward suspecting that it could have been JonBenet. And the crazy thing about this man as well is that he did try to strangle and kill his mother with a telephone cord. But the knots that he used to strangle his mother were similar to that on the garrote that strangled JonBenet.
That's lovely. I mean...
isn't that crazy? And here's the creepiest part was that this guy, like, he was just obsessed with her. He had a little shrine of her printed off, like, pictures printed off the internet. It's so disgusting. And there he was like, I would never hurt JonBenet, like, she's so beautiful, blah 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 blah, like, I wouldn't hurt her. And he was particularly upset. But like at every memorial service near there, if they went back and looked at the pictures, he was fucking there. He was there. But he was cleared by DNA evidence. But like, that's just so weird.
It's not. No.
He did do time for exploitation of a child. Like, he had child pornography. everywhere. He was held on a $100,000 bond. So, like, part of me thinks that he possibly didn't do it. He was just obsessed with her and she was like some sort of weird fantasy for him. But there's no doubt in my mind, had he had access to this child, that he would have done it.
Oh, 100%. This is a message to all pedophiles out there. Die.
Maggie she said die. She's writing your name in the death notebook right now.
Yep, 100%. I don't understand. That's sick.
It's the fact that, like, children are so innocent. They don't know, like, your intentions. They don't know what you're doing. Like, they don't understand that concept, right? Like, it's really fucked up. Like, they don't understand it. They don't understand that.
I mean, a shrine to her? That's ridiculous. Did I have a shrine to Justin Bieber when I was 8? Yes. But I was 8.
I also don't think you looked at, like, I don't know. I don't think you would look at Justin Bieber as an 8-year-old and be like, yeah, I'm going to kill him.
No. I was like, oh my god, it's Justin Bieber. So cute. Elementary school Maggie was a different breed. But a grown-ass man with a shrine to a child?
That's fucking weird.
No.
Are you talking like the Hey Arnold, like, shrine that Helga had of Arnold, like, for Justin Bieber? Is that what you had? I mean, that's what he basically had for JonBenet, and it's fucking disgusting. Okay, like, the shrines are shrines, but, like, for what purpose? This man had a purpose because he had a sick fantasy. Everyone else, like, when you're a child and you have, like, a quote-unquote shrine, it's, like, innocent because you have a crush, right? And
yeah, I had a crush on him. I had a poster in my closet, and I'd stare at it, just be like, yeah.
Yeah, but his shrine was for, like, some sort of sick fantasy. It was not innocent.
That's disgusting.
It was, no, it was not innocent whatsoever. Do I think that he did it? No. Do I think that this man is really creepy and disgusting? Yes. So another disgusting man who has, like, a really sick fantasy, he was known as John Mark Carr, but he's also known now as Alexis Val Reg, right? Confessed to accidentally killing JonBenet, which is really strange and, like, kind of, like, fucking out of left field, right? Like, it's just, where did you come from? Who are you? Do they even know you? It's really weird, but he was a former school teacher, right? Just straight up confessed out of the blue to her strangulation, and he did it. He confessed in graphic sexual detail. He was arrested. Disgusting. It is disgusting. He was arrested in Thailand, where he's been living after facing child pornography charges in the U.S.
I still stand by my previous statement. 2 pedophiles.
Right. Well, he had reached out to a University of Colorado Boulder professor and he reached out and was like, hey, let's make a documentary about this case. And he sent really disturbing emails revealing a grown man's sexual fascination with JonBenet. And I read it and it was so creepy. Like, I almost vomited. It was so fucking disgusting. They immediately flew him to Boulder for questioning, right? And on one dramatic account, I'm going to read this, and I'm not going to read anything else. I'm not going to do it. The more I read it, the more I want to strangle the man.
Oh, God.
And I quote, in one dramatic account, Carr recalls strangling JonBenet in a love game gone wrong.
Hell no. No.
Close your pretty eyes, sweetheart. He reads the excerpt in which Carr repeatedly refers to himself as Daxus. Daxus loves you so much. Oh God, I love you. I love you, JonBenet, and my lover's eyes are slowly closing.
What?
So this broke international headlines, right? And he insisted on killing herself. However, in the documentary, he said that he didn't kill her, that he was just there when she died, that he held her when she died. And I don't know what the fuck. I don't know what the fuck is going on there. Like, again, he just came out of the blue and did it. It was proving that he had nothing to do with that. It was a false confession. I think this man was just filling some sort of fucking sick fantasy that he had in his head. Like, and the worst part is that he was a school teacher. It wouldn't surprise me if this guy did it, which, of course, now he is not a guy. He has a new identity and a new gender. I don't know where he is or what he's doing with that. I'm pretty sure he's hiding under the guise, but yeah, that is the false confession that was fucking left field. I don't know. Like, I guess telling people that he did it is some sort of gratification, but like, that's fucking disgusting.
It is disgusting. This issue, I'm not gonna touch that with 100-foot pole.
No. Well, let's go into our last theory. That is the most recent theory, and this theory is kind of wild.
It's a lighter theory.
It
It
is.
is in no way serious.
It's in no way serious. I kind of want to believe it just to think that it was all fake and this little girl is out there living her best life, but it's not.
It would be nice.
It would be nice, yes. But during recent years with the rise of TikTok, the new theory that has come into play is that JonBenet Ramsey is actually the pop star Katy Perry.
Katy Perry is known for her amazing hits, such as I Kissed a Girl and Firework.
So the reason why people came up with this theory is that Katy Perry does look very similar to JonBenet Ramsey in like the eyebrows and the eyes area, but like they are in fact not the same person, and that's just because Katy Perry at the time of JonBenet's murder was 12 years old.
Yeah. I mean, it would be really nice if that's what actually happened, and
I mean, yeah.
She's not actually dead and she didn't suffer such a gruesome demise.
Yeah, this is a theory that I'd want to happen, but you know, people were saying that it was making sense because she was rising the ranks in the beauty pageants and she was becoming more and more of a target, so they just changed everything, changed her name, gave her a new life, a new alias, and they even brought up Katy Perry's past, which she did start out as a humble Christian musician. But again, like, you can't pass a 6-year-old as a 12-year-old. That's not, and vice versa, that's not going to happen. So, yeah, that is the JonBenet Ramsey case, which the more you look into it, the more questions you have. Maggie, do you have anything to say about this case?
I hate it. This case is extremely sad. She didn't deserve what happened to her. She was just a kid.
I went through so many emotions, like, researching this case, like, just so much anger, and it's just frustrating, right? Because, like, the other cases that we've went over in this podcast, you know, you kind of get better, definite answers. I mean, I know the Connie Beard case had no answers, but this one has, like,
they're not even close.
They're not even close. I mean, they weren't close with the Connie Beard case, right? And that one was still really sad, but like, what the fuck is happening with this one? I feel like there's something really fishy behind it. You know what I mean? Like, something's not right.
The fact that so many people like idolized her and she was definitely a target for predators.
That's what I'm saying. I was like, she was a complete target. Her mom put her on a pedestal for the world to see. And at that time, like 1996, the internet is just coming up. I don't know how the internet was exactly in 1996. Actually, because I was born in 97, but like, I don't think they knew that people could take pictures from the internet and print it off of their child. I don't think that they knew that people were able to get that information, right?
Yeah, I don't know. It's just, it doesn't sit right with me. I wish she had answers and she got her justice, but
right,
doesn't look like that's going to be the case.
No. And so many people had access to this child, whether it was online or in person. Like, it's scary. And here's the thing, too, is like, I'm sure people knew where the Ramseys lived, all right? That whole neighborhood is bougie, okay? Because when I was looking on Zillow, every single one of them damn houses was like $1 million. And then the Ramseys was $7 million. And I don't know if it increased in price because the housing market is really shitty right now, or if it's because of this case, but it's a little fucked up, right? We'll never know. This case remains unsolved, and no one knows a damn thing still to this day. The suspects
Somebody knows something.
Somebody knows something.
Whether or not they're going to say it is iffy.
Well, here's the sad part, too, is like these suspects are all dying off, right? So some people are taking secrets to their grave.
Yeah, I mean, this is a stretch, and it probably won't happen. This is a stretch, but I'm wondering that if when John Ramsey passes, that if Burke knows something, he'll speak up. Because I've heard theories about that, and that would be amazing, but the likelihood of that happening is very low.
Well, he was also a suspect, so like if it was him then
he wouldn't say anything. But if it could have been his parents.
But also the DNA evidence concluded them out. So no one actually knows. Like that's the frustrating thing is like you think you get a lead and then you don't have one.
Yeah, and then like the kind of shitty police work that was done.
So that is the very sad and frustrating case of the mysterious murder of JonBenet Ramsey. This case was wild. This case is frustrating. This case is honestly the people who are investigated in this case are obviously there's something not right with them, right? Like
yeah, there's all
yeah.
They all have got something.
They all got something wrong with them, but that is the case today. We did present you the story the best that we could, but there's a lot of confusion and everything online still. There's still a lot of questions. We did the best that we could. Next episode is going to be on a lighter note. It's going to be paranormal, supernatural, true crime cryptid. So I'm still finding what the next episode should be on, but it'll be on a lighter note. And Maggie will possibly be there for the next episode, or Courtney. You'll probably see Maggie a lot more in the future. But thank you so much for listening. We really appreciate every like, view, follow, and subscription. And if you want to hear more from us, please follow us on our social media. I've noticed that I'm a little bit more active on Facebook. So if you want to follow us on Facebook, well, listen, Maggie. Listen, do you want to
What fight? Are you, 50?
I am 50 fucking years old. I'm more active on Facebook.
You're a 50-year-old white woman?
Yes, leave me alone. I am a 50-year-old white woman. Anyways, I'm more active on Facebook. I am sometimes active on Twitter. I may or may not force Maggie to do the Twitter now that she's called me a 50-year-old woman, but thank you so much,
Twitter is actually, it's starting to charge people to be on it. So I would switch over to Instagram pretty quickly.
Gay. Okay, we're switching over to Instagram. Doesn't matter. Anyway, thank you so much for listening. I'm going to go kill Maggie in the background. So, bye!
The murder of Maggie.